Hi, I'm Brett. Today we've got another video update on Project Blue. We're going to talk about the TD04 Turbo, which is a standard factory Mitsubishi turbo that comes in a lot of the early model WRXs, early model GC8s. This particular model was pretty common right up until about the 2008 model, where it then changed into a different type of design. But what I wanted to show in particular is the way the exhaust system fits on the backs of these turbos and what you should be looking for when you're choosing an upgrade to your turbo and your exhaust system. So I get my camera in to come around. Whilst we've got the gearbox out of the car, I can show you up here, right inside there is the back of the turbo, and this is the up pipe here that comes from the exhaust manifold, and that is the part that we've spoken about on another video, which on this particular model typically has a catalytic converter in this component, which is very, very restrictive and can often cause failure and do damage by the cat failing and going up into the intake of the exhaust housing of the turbo and damaging these blades that you can see are spinning here. Is the outlet side or the turbine side of the turbo, which generates all the energy off the wasted exhaust gases going up through and out the exhaust. But also one small thing you'll notice here, we've welded this up because this heat shield on these particular models over a period of time does come loose, and the factory welds around here do start causing a funny rattle. So if you've got a rattle in your exhaust system up the front, have a look at that. But take a look at this and you can see how this component here is actually set into the back of the steel housing of the turbo and the outlet here of the turbo itself. This part here, which I'll rub it and you can see, that there little, which is a valve which opens and closes, is the wastegate. Now, when the car comes on boost, that valve opens to allow gases to come out the exhaust instead of out of the turbine, which then takes the energy out of that and allows it to control the boost. And that wastegate flap there opens and closes via your boost control system, which depending on your car is typically controlled by the factory ECU. So let's go down here and have a look at the way it actually works. And you can see this is actually a TD04 turbo that has been removed off the car, and there's the turbine outlet down inside there, and that's the wastegate, and that opens and closes there, which I can't do easy because it's got spring tension on it. This part here is the wastegate actuator. I'll get my camera in to get a close-up. You can see there's a spring tension in there, which is typically on most Subarus 8 pounds, which means if you put 8 psi in here, it equalises the spring tension in there, and then that starts to open, but that is then controlled by the bleed valve of the wastegate control solenoid, which allows you to then run more boost. So remembering that this particular part here is what your exhaust system bolts to, and what I've got here, and I get my cameraman to come around, that part is then connected to that part there, and that there is where this wastegate vents the wasted gas or the energy when the car is on boost. Now, what I wanted to show you is the MRT exhaust system, because one big difference between our exhaust is we open this up, but one thing is we put this splitter in place here which directs the energy out of the wastegate or the exhaust in a more efficient flow, which directs it down and around through the exhaust system through the high flow catalytic converter. Whereas the factory exhaust system, the flow of the exhaust gas when the wastegate is open under full boost obviously then hits this flange here and has to go through a 90-degree bend and another 90-degree bend and then go down the exhaust. So this is why the MRT exhaust system gives you that little bit more flow, brings the car on boost a little bit earlier. But this distance here, which you can find, this splitter here, projects into the back of this void here, and that is what keeps this part separated from this part. Now, some people try to copy or do a different design on this. They don't have that projected part across to the back of the inside of the turbo, so effectively this is just a wasted piece of metal if it's not designed properly, and it doesn't project into the back of the turbo. And the distance from the flange here to the face of that casting there has to equal the same distance off this flange to the end of the metal here. And if you get it wrong, the gasket doesn't pull up tightly and you get a leaky gasket because this butts up and stops the exhaust clamping up properly. But if it's too short, you then get leaking gases either side of that, and of course it doesn't flow correctly. And we were talking about the differences earlier on about the different turbos and how they've changed in time. So this is the early model TD04, But you just have a look at this particular turbo here, and I'll get my cameraman to come over a bit closer again. You see how Subaru went to a flange connection on the 08, 09 models. Some of the Forester earlier models had this flange connection as well. So they went from a clamp-on hose clamp hose fitting to a bolt-on flange fitting, which is one of the reasons why you've got to be careful when you're choosing your intercooler design, because this part out of here is the compressor side, which is the heated side of the turbo, which generates the boost that goes into the engine, and this obviously from here goes straight into your intercooler. So depending on how you're swapping the parts or choosing your turbo design, you need to keep in mind the difference between those two components. And of course, because a lot of people swap the turbos in between the different models. So there you have it. You now know what to look for when you're looking at the turbo on a WRX. You know what the differences are between the early and the late model turbos, and you also know what to look for in an exhaust system design depending on how you're choosing to modify your car. Remembering this is the original factory exhaust system off an early model Subaru, high flow catalytic, original factory catalytic converter, and then it goes down into the back of the exhaust system there. For more information, you can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter and Instagram. If you want to search our website, you can actually put TD04 in the search feature and get some more information on some technical reports and downloads, or you can look at the parts available as well. And of course, check out our other videos and have a look at the bottom of this video channel for some still photos of all these parts. I really hope the information I've given you has unlocked some of the technical knowledge of what you may want to know when you're upgrading your model. Remember, if you do change your turbo and you're chasing more boost, make sure you do a reliable ECU program at the same time to make sure you've got the right fuel mixtures, the right ignition control, and of course you've got the right boost control, because as soon as you change the turbo or change your exhaust, your boost control will be different. That's it for now. No matter where you're in the world, I'm Brett Middleton. Thanks for watching.